That's right. It's week 16. It's fantasy championship time, and that means we are here for you. It is the Audible. It's Cecil, Lammey, and Sigmund Bloom with part one of the week 16 preview here on the Big Show. And oh boy, do we got a lot to get to with Friday games, Saturday games, Sunday games, and Monday games. So let's get across it. Starting on Christmas afternoon, 2:30 Mountain Time. It's Minnesota and it's New Orleans, Bloom. And this one's pretty simple for, well, honestly, both sides. But when you look at the Minnesota side, it's like, okay, I'm starting Justin Jefferson. I'm starting Adam Thielen, hoping for a little bit more, honestly,
right.
From Adam Thielen. Dalvin Cook, you're rock solid, good to go there. There's some auxiliary players, whatever. I don't know if you're trusting Kirk Cousins in a 2QB league. I wouldn't be against this Saints defense. They're ferocious, Bloom, but there's assets for Minnesota that you can trust.
I think most specifically Cook and Jefferson. I think those are the truly trustworthy plays. Look, if you're on the fence, there's been some players that have emerged, like Jefferson, from the late rounds. Like if someone said, to get Brandon Ayuk in my lineup, I have to bench Adam Thielen. Okay. Thielen has a low floor. We saw it last week, even though he caught a touchdown. Dalvin Cook leading a lot of teams to the semis. And then just as Irv Smith was getting going, we'll see about Kyle Rudolph for Friday. Short week. I don't think we're going to see him. But then there's Tyler Conklin, Central Michigan product, getting that touchdown, showing some stubborn run after catch ability. The Vikings are basically out of it with that loss to the Bears last week, but they have been a thorn in the side of the Saints, and the Saints are looking to get some positive momentum after the defense did their job, but the offense not so much last week.
Offense, not so much. The Saints side of things, is the rust shaken off with Drew Brees, or is it permanent?
Yeah.
To quote Bugs Bunny. Because, okay, Drew Brees is back. That means Jared Cook isn't going to do anything again. We know no Michael Thomas, so E going to do E. That's fine. Mm-hmm. Alvin Kamara, you're fine. Latavius Murray is probably a deep flex or maybe even a what the heck flex, Bloom, but it's Christmas. You might be open for a Christmas miracle if you start some of your Saints.
Yeah, you want to see the Vikings defense has actually come around. I mean, they're not one of the worst units in the league against the pass. I probably wouldn't go with Drew Brees because sometimes it takes a little while for him to warm up. And like you said, Cease, is this just Drew Brees now? And also, no Michael Thomas, no Traquan Smith probably, who left with an ankle injury. So you're looking at Alvin Kamara getting a ton of targets. Emmanuel Sanders didn't quite come through for us last week, could come through for us this week for sure with high volume. A lot of short passes, big PPR upside, and probably Jared Cook's going to get targets. He always gives you that shot at scoring a touchdown. So he's not necessarily a preferred option, although he's someone who could come through. Also, let's watch and see if Marquez Callaway is going to be back. They said he's got a chance to play. And where are they at? Lil Jordan Humphrey scored a touchdown. Cease, did you think we were ever going to talk about Lil Jordan Humphrey on our show? Here he is, UT product.
Yeah, there you go. Way to go, Lil Jordan Humphrey. Way to go,
not little.
You. Yeah, exactly. I was like that. It's like Biggie Smalls, right? It's like big, but small, and both, and good. All right, good for you as we move on to Saturday's matchups. 3 games on Saturday, and it is Tampa Bay and Detroit, the first one up. This one is the Leonard Fournette Bowl, right? Can you trust Leonard Fournette? Will you trust him in a championship week? Now, Bloom, if you say put Leonard Fournette as a flex play, sure, I can trust that against the Lions. I'd go for that if he was available or if I had him on my roster like I did in Fezzle OG.
Oh.
But, that's a tricky question for fantasy GMs. Tricky because Mike Evans a little bit banged up, Chris Godwin a little bit banged up, Rob Gronkowski, hot, cold, all these type of things, and Tom Brady yelling at people, making people upset. Okay, well, they could be pretty happy against the Lions, honestly.
Yeah, start everyone against the Lions, right? I mean, isn't that what we saw last week with Tennessee? I know you're saying, oh, it could have been better for A.J. Brown or something like that, but you want to start everyone against Detroit. And Tampa needs this game. There's some scenarios where there's like a big 9-7 logjam in Tampa, so they're not completely in the playoffs. This would help them. Yeah, Brady, a preferred option. Evans, a preferred option. Godwin, tough to bench. So, for instance, if someone said, I've got to choose between Godwin and Thielen, this week. Again, I understand saying, well, maybe Thielen to the bench. Even Antonio Brown, after he got that long touchdown last week. Even Rob Gronkowski, and it's kind of like a Jared Cook play where you may only get 1 or 2 catches, but you may get 3 catches for 60 and a touchdown. Maybe you'll even get multiple touchdowns with Gronkowski because the touchdowns should come easy for Tampa. Detroit, by the way, and I don't know if this is good or bad, Cease, when your defense is as bad as Detroit, is it good or bad when all of your coaches are on the COVID list? Is it maybe good?
It's probably good.
Yeah, I don't know. Wow, the Detroit defense really came alive. Like you said, the biggest question here is Leonard Fournette. He didn't look great last week, although Atlanta's not a pushover run defense, but he scored twice. And again, we think they're going to be scorers here. So I'll probably break ties in favor of Fournette for sure. If we look at some of these other new guys, let's do the power rankings of the new starters. Fournette, Bell, Henderson. Is that the order?
Yeah.
Probably?
Yeah.
I think so. Like Fournette has more touchdown upside than Bell. Maybe Henderson has some big play upside, but it's a tough matchup. So we'll see. But Tampa needs this one. And, for Detroit, it's just another chance for us to salute Matthew Stafford before we have the offseason derby for his services.
Yeah, somebody's going to get Matthew Stafford, maybe Denver. We'll talk about that as the offseason continues. Like, we made people sad, Bloom, when we're like, yeah, it's our last show before Christmas. It's like, no. We're still... This is episode 256 this year. So we're going to be there for you in the off season. So all that and then some. So here we go to the Lions side. DeAndre Swift, Marvin Jones Jr. You're not trusting TJ Hawkinson. Hell, I trust Jared Cook and that roll of the dice more than I would TJ Hawkinson. So again, Matthew Stafford, we salute you, sir. Good day, sir. And we'll enjoy him, Lions fans. You only got a couple more games left with him.
Yeah, ain't that the truth? Stafford's good for fantasy football. He's good for the other side, too. Again, last week that he kept that game close for a while really helped up the output of Tennessee, and it helped up the output of Marvin Jones, who's in there. Carlton Davis is banged up. TJ Hawkinson, like you said, Cease, this is a tough call. He was abysmal last week. But this is a good matchup, and it is Matthew Stafford. So, in a PPR league, I might be more inclined to go Hawkinson over, say, a Cook Gronk play. If it's 0.5 PPR, non-PPR, you like those touchdowns better. The point is, it's not a given that Hawkinson's in your lineup, even though maybe until last week it was, which could be an example of overthinking it. The problem here is that Hawkinson didn't look good last week and he fumbled. Trust your gut. Again, this is one of those things. If your team is still alive in week 16, we'll do our best to give you our opinion, but always trust yourself. Swift, I think you have to put in. And it is the Tampa run defense, but Swift's going to give you touchdown upside. Swift's going to give you PPR upside. He's going to be game script proof. So I think that DeAndre Swift is someone you want in your lineup, even though Tampa usually shuts down opposing running backs. We'll see if Tampa, Detroit can play some spoiler here, make this one entertaining. But even if it's not, Cease, we got 2 more games on Saturday.
Yeah, we got 2 more games ready to go for that Christmas hangover. Look at our man, Mark. He's been a listener for years, first time joining the live show. Let's go, Mark. Yeah. Appreciate you, man. Thank you guys for joining us here on the live, the big show, San Francisco and Arizona. The big show is CJ Beathard. Okay. Josh Rosen is the backup, right? Because Josh Johnson's on the COVID list. Josh Johnson's still in the league, man. I feel good for Josh.
I love it. Yeah.
A friend of the show. So San Francisco, Raheem Mostert's done for the year. Right. I always love the practice reports like Mostert didn't practice today. Yeah, he's done for the year. Okay. Maybe Jet McKinnon gets something. Maybe. Yeah. You mentioned Ayuk a little bit earlier, watching the practice status of one. Debo. But with CJ Beathard. Oh, and by the way, George Kittle. That's right. How can I figure that? Oh, geez, by the way. Yeah. Oh, my God. I need to wake up because George Kittle might be back, Bloom. And listen, I'm one of those guys, fairly conservative in terms of fantasy. Like if Kittle's back, I'm playing him. Like I don't care if I've had Noah Fant filling in for him or whatever. If Kittle's back, I'm playing him. I guess I'm stubborn, Bloom.
I agree. No, I agree. And it's another one of those what can you live with things. Because if you don't play Kittle, if you play, TJ Hawkinson, or I think we talked about this, Pat Fitzmaurice and I talked about it on the couch. And Robert Tunyon's like the break line, right? Because Robert Tonyan is likely going to give you 15 points in a PPR league. So if Kittle isn't quite himself, then you may lose because of that. But all these options where you're not sure what you're going to get, even one like Hawkinson, Kittle's probably around be 5, 6 this week. And I just want to say for the record, CJ Beathard got a snort out of you. The snort laugh. That shows you where CJ Beathard is, like the snort list. But he is Iowa connection to Kittle. Maybe Jeff Wilson's going to be the clear starter here. And in the background, you have to think that San Francisco's not going to roll over. Arizona needs this game to keep pushing for the playoffs. Chicago's right on their heels. And I believe Chicago will win tiebreakers, but don't quote me on that. And San Francisco isn't going to roll over, I don't think. Even if Deebo Samuel's back, Brandon Ayuk is unbenchable at this point. And then we'll see about San Francisco. I think Josh Rosen's the biggest story here. I would love to see him stick in this organization, see what Kyle Shanahan can do. Maybe he can be the backup next year. Nick Mullins is going to have Tommy John surgery. And I know one thing. I'm not worried about this game being entertaining, Cease, because Kyler Murray's playing in it.
Kyler Murray's playing, so it's always entertaining. Nuke Hopkins, always entertaining. And then Chase Edmonds, I guess, watching the practice status of Kenyon Drake. Again, have Larry Fitzgerald on your roster so you can win a championship with him. Yeah. Don't start him.
Right.
So with Arizona, it's fairly simple except for that running back situation. And by the way, for Pedro asking, this is what happens when you get old. Like, I'm going to eat a bunch of meat during Christmas. So I'm like, okay, I don't want the gout to fire.
Right.
So I better pound the cranberry juice because what's that acid? Like, there's some sort of acid that gets on your joints. Uric acid.
As in urine.
And then you can't walk. So
right.
I was like, I'm going to pound this. I'm going to eat a bunch of beef. Merry Christmas. And Christmas cookies. There goes my diet.
We need to do a special show, Cease, about all the things that start to happen to you when you get old and not in great shape, because you taught me about gout. I've been gout-free for about a year or two now, although every time I have any kind of cure, but I'm staying away from things like beef jerky. That's the one that got me last time.
Just drink cranberry juice.
Yeah. Well, you got a urinary tract infection? Look, this is Kyler Murray. He's back. Don't worry about the shoulder injury. Nuke Hopkins. He's back. He should make a few breathtaking plays. And then it looks like Kenyon Drake is healthier than Chase Edmonds. Not that I'm excited to put Kenyon Drake in my lineup, but if Edmonds is out, maybe it is a little more of a nudge to play Drake there. But I think it's Kyler Murray, it's Nuke Hopkins, and it should be a show for us as Arizona tries to get into the playoffs. Yay, Cease. Cliff, Kyler, year 2 making the playoffs, even with 7 teams in the playoffs. It's pretty good.
It's really good, and especially, I'll emphasize this, knowing people on that team and in that building that work for the team. Kyler doesn't know what he's doing yet. Okay? Now imagine that. Imagine Kyler continuing to grow this is deadly. It's serious, man. Arizona could be looking at not playoff runs, but Super Bowl runs. When that kid starts to get more, and he's picking it up. He's very astute in that manner. All right, final game in Saturday's slate is Miami and Las Vegas. And the Miami side is like, okay, you feel good about the Dolphins, right? You feel good, and hey, making that run, and all right, love Brian Flores. B-Flow, his players love him as well. So who do you love on your fantasy team? Devontae Parker might actually be playing in this one. Watch his practice status. It seems a little bit more optimistic, Bloom. So we'll be mindful of that. Mike Gesicki, right? There's another one of those. Okay, I'm starting Kittle over Gesicki. Maybe that's just me, but he is a consideration for you this week as well. If Parker doesn't play, that opens things up. The running back position, which has been up and down, and now it's Salvin Ahmed. Did we ever decide? There's a consideration, though, because it's the Raiders on Saturday night.
Well, that's the thing here, is it's the Raiders. Before I launch into that, I want to say this again. I feel like I can't say it enough. We were looking at 2 Hawaiian quarterbacks, but I still want to observe Hawaiian football culture here, since there's no Pro Bowl in Hawaii anymore. This is exciting. And also look up some of the stuff that happened previous to Hawaii becoming a state. American history. It's not always pretty. Hawaii. Let's put Hawaii in the front and center. Now, let's put Tua front and center. The problem is, who's he going to throw to? Like you said, we may see Parker. We may see Grant. We may see Gesicki. So that takes Bowden out of the consideration. We may see Myles Gaskin back, so that takes Achman out of consideration. Good for Miami to have all hands on deck, but it's not necessarily going to be a high-flying offense, even though the matchup is good. But Miami wants to bring this home. We're looking at the musical chairs picture in the AFC, and right now you've got Indy, Tennessee, Cleveland, Baltimore, and Miami, but only 4 of them can make the playoffs. So when the music stops, someone's not going to have a place to sit. Miami has to win this game. They get Buffalo next week. Miami has to win this game if they want to make the playoffs.
Watch out for that. Watch out for our PCU movie references as well. The Big Show, because Josh, I picked up my son from the airport and kind of flying home from Washington State for Christmas. And as long as he doesn't get deployed for any sort of riots in the Northwest, then he'll be home for Christmas, which is a good thing. We got about 5 minutes in the conversation, Bloom.
Yeah.
He was like, because PCU, you can't buy it on like Vudu or, digital streaming, whatever. It doesn't exist unless you have it on DVD. 5 minutes in, Liam's like, we got to watch PCU.
Yeah.
So
bonding in the Lammey household.
Of course. Too bad.
Holiday traditions.
It was a documentary instead of a comedy. Anyway, let's move on from that. Talk about the Raiders, and their car may be out there. That actually really disappoints me, Bloom, because I want to see what Marcus Mariota can do in another week, right? Yeah. I want to see what he can do with these weapons and the weapons that you would normally turn to, like a Josh Jacobs, Darren Waller, of course. And the wide receivers, you're just like, oh, God. Aguilar, please do something. Wide receiver 3-4, flex play, something like that. So there's some opportunity there. But with Derek Carr playing potentially, Bloom, it does take some of the fun out of this game.
Yeah. And I don't quite understand this. Alternating reps or, splitting the reps in practice. I mean, if Carr is healthy enough to play, then it's Carr. And he should be the first team quarterback in practice. And if he's not, then it should be Mariota. I don't understand what they get. Are you trying to have a quarterback competition in practice in December, John Gruden? Am I out of line here, Cease?
No.
I mean, does it make any sense for them to be splitting reps in practice at this point?
Well, it just goes back to further emphasize the team that kind of was considering Kyler Murray, like, they've never really wanted Derek Carr.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so I guess we should conclude that Carr is healthy enough to play, or trying to prove he's healthy enough to play, but Gruden wants to leave the door open for Mariota. I hope it's Mariota just because we know what Derek Carr can do. We're maybe redefining what Mariota can do. And if it is Mariota, he's got some fantasy appeal here, although Miami's defense is not the Chargers' defense. Josh Jacobs is going to be in because he's your workhorse. Nelson Aguilar's got a tough matchup with those outside corners. Probably not him. Really, we just want to pay tribute again to Darren Waller. How about this, Cease? Like 4 years ago, was Waller even in the league? I don't know. And I know there was some time there he was like really on the fringe.
Yeah, he was definitely on the fringe and battling addiction problems.
Yeah, and now he is a fantasy hero. Like fantasy football teams may be carrying him off on their shoulders if they can win a championship.
And he's not just a fluke because last year he had that 1,000-yard season and be like, oh, well, fluky, whatever. Nope.
No.
Here, man. He's here.
No. And so, yeah, Darren Waller. And Cease, I think another thing that this, because, man, Josh Gordon, man, how many times have we been to this cycle with Josh Gordon? And now it seems like the common outcome is just when he's on the cusp of getting back on the field, another relapse. So Darren Waller is a great story to show that not every addict relapses. Not every football player who could have been great but got hung up in substance abuse problems never gets past them. Right. And that's something we should all rally around at this time.
Can I rant, Blue?
Please.
Like, addiction problems are not something to be made fun of. Like, even if it's like on Half Baked when like you addicted to weed, like if you're addicted and you're in that mode, like, because people make fun. Oh, Gordon, I can't kick the weed. It's like, if you have addiction problems, if it's alcohol, which is more abusive than marijuana, as someone who just, has never tried weed, I can say my, outlook on that has changed. Living in Colorado do that to you. But you see the effects of people who are addicted to alcohol. People who are addicted to any sort of substance that may be bad. Excess is bad, right? Yeah. I love Big Macs, but if I eat them all the time, I'm going to be a fat ass, like diabetes. Like, Okay.
Yeah.
If you are addicted to substance, and that's why I bloom, like I hate when I see people like making fun of Josh Gordon. If he's battling those demons and he's using whatever he needs to get through that, and he wants to, try to kick the habit or whatever it is for all people out there. If you cannot tell, Bloom,
Yeah.
I've had people close to me that battle addiction problems. I lost
Oh.
a cousin. I lost a cousin to meth. Meth is the devil. People run around like, oh, the devil. It's like, no, meth is the devil. You ever seen someone you love get addicted to meth? You ever lose someone to that drug? Yeah. Okay. So please, let's, take it easy on Josh Gordon or anyone battling addiction problems. And we should praise Darren Waller for his work.
Yeah, and I think we want to recast addiction as an illness. Would you make fun of somebody? Ha, you have lupus.
Right.
Oh, your body can't fight it off.
Be a human being.
Be a human being. So, Darren Waller, it's some good stuff. And yeah, Cecil, there's a whole other side of like alcoholism. Alcoholism was in my household growing up. I also lived in the attic of a bar for a while, so it makes sense, right? Yeah, so I think on that serious note, for sure, I was sad to see that about Josh Gordon, but Darren Waller is wonderful proof that people can change.
Yes. All right. We get closer and closer to the show, Bloom. We get closer and closer to that show. Sunday's action. We got 4 games to break down in part 1 of the Week 16 preview here on the Audible. It is Atlanta. It is Kansas City. It seems like Fantasy Jams every week are watching the status of Julio Jones. Like, I don't know. Let's see what Julio can do this week and keep Russell Gage ready. And Calvin Ridley's already in your lineup, and you're not starting Hayden Hurst. I'm not excited about the Ito Smith thing. I know that was like big fantasy news or whatever, Bloom. Like, Ito's the guy. Yeah, but if he's not good, who cares? Like, it doesn't matter. Yeah. Maybe he totally, this is the week. Maybe Ito Smith is your Week 16 champion winner. Whatever. But I'm not too fired up about it. Gurley's still going to get some work. It's against the Chiefs. You got to put the foot on the gas in this one. So how do Matt Ryan and company respond?
Yeah, Ito's like the new Week 16 starters. We talked about the rankings, Fournette, Bell, Henderson. Ito's not even in the ranking. He's in the also receiving votes too, or something like that. He's not exactly someone you're trying to shoehorn in your lineup because of the matchup, because they're still probably going to split up the work. I'm not bullish whether or not we see Julio. He didn't practice today. It is Wednesday. I'm not bullish on this offense outdoors. I know Matt Ryan went to BC, but outdoors against Kansas City's defense, which is underrated. I'm probably not going with Matt Ryan or counting on Matt Ryan outside of Calvin Ridley, who could have easily had 2 touchdowns last week. Antoine Winfield making a terrific play. By the way, what a class of safeties. And we barely got to see Xavier McKinney, I think, close to returning maybe. Grant Delpit, we're not going to get to see him. What a class of safeties. Antoine Winfield makes that come to mind. Maybe Russell Gage. If you think Matt Ryan's going to struggle, and I do, Russell Gage could be that struggle target. It's not Hayden Hurst. And again, with Atlanta, this is a team that is looking to the future, new GM, new head coach, new plan, really, not the Ryan Julio plan. Is this their Super Bowl? Do you get up for this game knowing that Kansas City is the favorite for the Super Bowl?
Kansas City is where Le'Veon Bell is going to be the lead back, but Darrell Williams is going to get some work, Bloom, and Darrell Williams is a good back. And if they need to grind it out, if they need some sort of short yardage, like Darrell Williams, let me just put it this way. Darrell Williams could have more success on the ground than Le'Veon Bell. This is not the Le'Veon Bell that you remember, Obi-Wan, right? This is new Le'Veon Bell, older Le'Veon Bell, but it's on the Chiefs, so you get a bump there. And kind of like the Fournette thing, Bloom, if I have Le'Veon Bell as a flex play, I'm feeling pretty good. If I'm relying on Le'Veon Bell as my RB2, I don't feel good. I play in a PPR league because who doesn't play in PPR leagues? I love the old school guys, right? That played fantasy out of PPR. And then they're like, we changed the rules to half PPR. Okay, half pregnant. But anyway, so Le'Veon Bell is kind of the story because you're starting Kelsey, you're starting Hill, you're starting Mahomes, blah, 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 blah. And hopefully McCole Hardman holds on to the ball. You got some what the heck flexes, certainly. But Le'Veon Bell is more of a flex or RB3 than he is more than that to me.
Yeah, if you're starting a Bell, you're starting a Fournette, you're starting a Henderson, then it's because you don't have a reliable running back too, and you're looking elsewhere. We haven't seen the big outburst from Kansas City's backfield yet for fantasy. I don't think Bell's going to give us a game with like 150 total yards or something like that. He could give us a touchdown or two. But as you said, Darrell Williams is still there. And what Darrell Williams has, and isn't this a thorn in the side of fantasy football players everywhere, he's the running back that knows the offense. He's the running back that Andy Reid knows. If I put him out there, he's going to know his assignment and perform it. Mm-hmm. And in this offense, that is more important than adding yards with ability to break tackles or your ability to evade tackles or otherwise adding value to your touches. It's just keeping this offense humming. So, Patrick Mahomes against Atlanta, oh boy. Hill, Kelsey, a lot of teams, and you got to love it, Cease. Sometimes fantasy football is simple. I want the best players and the best offense. Kansas City. So if you did that, you got Kelsey in the first round, you got Hill in the second round, you got Mahomes in the second round. You're feeling so good about this matchup. So good that, again, maybe McCole Hardman, it's there. The deep balls are there. It's Atlanta. We saw, hey, Antonio Brown can get open deep against Atlanta for a long touchdown. So if you're on the fence about Hardman, again, and I want to quote Pat Fitzmaurice, who's so wise, number one most accurate ranker over at Fantasy Pros, said, don't let upside talk you into making a bad play. Is that McCole Hardman this week? Maybe, but there's still that allure of some way, somehow getting Patrick Mahomes into your lineup.
Yeah, and it's also who you're up against.
Yeah.
Am I up against the league's best team and I barely made it and I need everything? Okay, McCole Hardman. If I'm the best team and I'm rolling, Hardman's on my bench.
Yeah.
Look at this. The Audible worldwide. Our guy Ahmed. Happy holidays, fellas. Best regards from Israel.
Wow.
Awesome. Incredible. Love you guys. Thanks for chiming in. And what time is it in Israel?
Oh,
we do have Google in front of us. So.
Yeah. It's evening. What a place to be as we get close to Christmas. Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. All right, let's get close to the next game. It's Cleveland against the Jets. And man alive, if you love the Browns, or if you collected Browns during the year, or Bloom, if you looked at the fantasy playoffs and you're like, wait a second, Cleveland has a great fantasy playoff schedule. I'm going to get them all. And maybe that means you got Odell Beckham Jr., which, obviously shut down weeks ago. But, okay, Jarvis Landry, Rashard Higgins, you're looking at Baker Mayfield, Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt. Can you trust Austin Hooper? Like, I trust Hooper more than, let's say, Hayden Hurst or TJ Hawkinson, which is kind of weird because Hooper's in a little bit of a tight end by committee. But you're feeling good about the Browns, and you're also feeling good that they probably won't take it easy on the Jets.
No. And what are the Browns looking at? If the Steelers lose this week, the Browns can win the division
title. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, no, they're not going to take it easy. No, they're not going to come in with their gloves down like the Rams did. Let Baker bake. Let Baker bake. We've come in the first half of the year was let Russ cook. It's let Baker bake. 32 pass attempts in a game that they were leading comfortably means, they're trusting Baker more. And you should too. If you had to choose between Baker Mayfield and Russell Wilson this week, Cease, I think it's Baker. Your thoughts?
Yeah.
It's Baker. It's Baker. And on that McCole Hardman tip, I think that Rashard Higgins is a good counterpoint. You're playing Jarvis Landry. Jarvis Landry's playing so well. He's kind of the spirit animal of this team, isn't he? Mm-hmm. Along with Nick Chubb. And you're playing both running backs. I think you may see 3 total touchdowns between the two running backs. Higgins is a good example as the counterpoint to Hardman. Higgins is good for 10 to 15 PPR points in this game. Even if it's 3 for 80, it's going to be there. Where Hardman might give you a 2 for 30. Now, Hardman may give you a better chance at 100 yards and a touchdown. So that's where you're looking at the matchup. That's the kind of player that you're weighing there. And even Austin Hooper. Austin Hooper had his best fantasy game of the year last week. And it is the Jets. And remember what Tyler Higbee did against the Jets last week. So hats off to the Jets, but this should be a game for the Browns. They've been winning the games they're supposed to win. That's how they got into this position. And I would expect the Browns to not let this one slip away.
What did Adam tweet out? The Lawrence Welp.
Lawrence
New York Post. Yeah, New York Post had that headline. So, okay, Jets. Have Frank Gore on your lineup so when you win a championship, he wins a ring with you. Other than that, I don't want to start anybody.
Yeah, that's the thing
from the Jets.
They're playing better. The offense is playing better. Where's Sam Darnold going to end up next year? Maybe we'll see a little LaMichael P. Ryan. Chris Herndon is doing a little bit to revive his career. But it's only Jamison Crowder. Again, a safe-ish PPR play. I say ish because of the injuries. And, it's Cleveland. But, yeah, and Cecil will debate it for decades now, whether it was a good or a bad thing that the Jets won in Week 15. And as I said, but look, I forget who it was that said this. If you're a Jets fan, don't be mad at the Jets. They did what every football player is supposed to do every week. Go out and play hard and play your best and win.
Right.
Be mad at the Rams. Send your hate mail to the Rams. That's who you should be angry at if you're a Jets fan.
Another bad look for Kroenke. Only Denver fans will get that. But this reminds me of when Nebraska would be playing some sort of like School of Welding. The
Colorado School of Mines.
Kearney School of Welding. It's like, and then they put in their fifth stringers, and the fifth stringer goes get a touchdown. It's like, well, stop them. Stop them. It's the Jets. You're better than the Jets. Well, stop them. Stop overlooking them. And, Cleveland will probably just get out and curb stomp them. Indianapolis and Pittsburgh. Speaking of curb stomp, my heart has been curb stomped because the Steelers have been exposed, and they are not good, and they are not going to be able to pull out of this funk, Bloom. Phillip Rivers is there, and he'd love to be that guy that pushes the plunger, right? Like Wile E. Coyote with the TNT. He pushes the plunger and just Steelers implode some more. Like, yeah, Rivers would love to do that. He'd love to do it. Jonathan Taylor, T.Y. Hilton coming around. Can you trust in what the Colts do? Of course, you're not trusting that tight end trio, right? You're not looking at that and going, oh, that's what I want. I don't want a piece of that. Not at all in this situation. I did mention T.Y. Hilton. Zach Pascal, though, leaps back into our considerations based on his performance last week. Nyheim Hines, RB3 flex play. So the Colts have some interesting plays against the Steelers that aren't as ferocious as everyone thought.
See, what Kate and I have been watching the last couple of nights?
What's that?
The Lakers-Celtics 3-part 30 for 30. You seen that one?
Yeah, I've seen it. Mm-hmm.
Maybe I just have it on the brain. But watching that epic series, documentary series, and it took me back down memory lane when we were kids. There was nothing bigger than that. It was like Star Wars and then Lakers Celtics, basically. Like Bird versus Magic was about as big as like Darth Vader against Luke Skywalker. And watching that, it made me think of the Steelers on both sides of the ball, because this is it. What are you made of, right? This is a what are you made of week for the Steelers, right? They know that everybody watches Monday Night Football. The whole league was watching them. And, Mackenzie Alexander and William Jackson and Carl Lawson. And these are good players. Don't get me wrong.
Don't say William Jackson. That makes me so sad.
I know.
Artie Burns.
The point is that the bullies were getting bullied. And I'm thinking back in that Lakers Celtics.
And everybody was rooting for it.
Right. And there was that turning point in the 84 series when they say no layups, right? So that's the Steelers defense this week. No layups, even if you take a personal foul. We'll see. Colts offense is tough to handle. It's multidimensional. Jonathan Taylor, you got to keep playing him. A chance for touchdowns, a chance for receptions, and just the Steelers defense is not fearsome right now. It's not fearsome. T.Y. Hilton, in my mind's eye, it's my neurotic Steelers fan bent sees. In my mind's eye, I see T.Y. Hilton getting free in that secondary a couple times. Even in a bad week compared to the previous 3 weeks, he still had 4 for 71 last week. So it's my Steelers neurosis here. See if they can get pressure on Phillip Rivers, but I do like Hilton. And from a matchup standpoint, I'm not saying playing Nyheim Hines, but we are previewing the games. I'm scared of Nyheim Hines in this game. Steelers, who's playing linebacker for them now? We'll see if Vince Williams isn't good in coverage anyway. Avery Williamson, you're our only hope. Nyheim Hines could be a big matchup problem. And Steelers defense, you had Steelers defense, you're like, ride them all the way through the fantasy playoffs. This week? I don't know about that. This isn't a great fantasy defense right now, and it isn't even a defense that we're thinking, oh, you're scared of your players when they're facing them. Look what Giovanni Bernard did against them last week. But see, as much as it's a gut check game for the defense, it's even bigger. And I'm thinking of Kareem, when Kareem said, I'm not dead. You're burying me, and I'm not dead. You're putting dirt on my grave. Is Ben dead?
Yeah. Like Diego brings up the juju thing. It's like I don't even care about the dancing, right? I'm not. I didn't grow up where Footloose was, based off of. Uh, I don't care about the dancing, but it's like, what is your focus?
Yeah.
If your focus is, I'm gonna get a bunch of followers on TikTok or whatever, I'm gonna do this, and people are gonna be
Look at me.
Your focus needs to be on the God blessed game. So, okay, Steelers side, James Conner might play Bloom. I don't care.
Yeah.
Benny Snell might get more work. I don't care. Juju is what, like a wide receiver 3 flex. Chase Claypool's what the heck flex. Deontay's not earning Ben's trust. James Washington's like that. I don't even care about my lineup in the championship flex. And then it comes back to Ben. Ben's a QB2 that I don't trust, that I'm not going to play because he's done. He's done. They should have gave him time off and brought him back and would beat that thing over and over, that drum, and say they should have just, hey, you've got an injury, wink, bring him back to the playoffs because he's done. His arm's shot. He's done.
I talked to my 84-year-old father, Sigmund Bloom, and he wanted to know if I brought up his plan. He said, you know what he said? Because it was his plan. We talked about this last week. He's like, they should sit Roethlisberger against Cincinnati. And he said, it could not have been worse if they sat him. It could not have been worse. Truly, it could not have been worse if they had played Mason Rudolph or Joshua Dobbs or both. But maybe Roethlisberger surprises us. I'm not counting on that when I set my fantasy lineup, but that's the story. Look, this is a massive game. Again, musical chairs in the AFC. 5 teams, 4 spots. Indianapolis needs this game. I think they're a team that loses a lot of tiebreakers against Baltimore and Cleveland and Miami and Tennessee. This is a big, big game for them. For the Steelers, though, it's a big game, for their manhood, for their sense of themselves, their self-image going into the playoffs. Yes, they're in the playoffs, but they could be. We're going to see Cleveland and Pittsburgh in back-to-back weeks. I think we're going to see Cleveland and Pittsburgh in back-to-back weeks, aren't we? Like, no matter who wins, they're going to see. It's just the gods.
We're going to see back-to-back Browns wins too.
No. CC, you have become more neurotic than me. This is what has happened over the course of this year. This is what happens when the Steelers go 11-0. It's too much for us to handle.
Yeah.
So Roethlisberger, we'll see what he finds because he knows all eyes are on him. Snell was the best offensive player on the field last week. You almost are rooting for Connor to be inactive, so you consider Snell, although this is a tough run defense sometimes, that Colts run defense to force Buckner. Deontay Johnson, you're trusting, in PPR leagues especially, because the volume's there. And I think that he's well out of the drop house now. Juju's real tough to trust the way he's playing. Kenny Moore's out there, too, in the slot. Talk about Pro Bowl snubs. Kenny Moore and DeForest Buckner. In what world are they not Pro Bowl players? It's Chase Claypool, what the heck flex, like you said. It's like McCole Hardman. And Chase Claypool looks good. It was almost painful to watch Chase Claypool's talents go to waste, except for that one catch and run down the sidelines. He looks physically dominant right now. Ben Roethlisberger just can't unlock that. And Cease, can we get my neck and my back for Eric Ebron?
Yeah, of course we can get that. God, if you're listening, help. He's been wearing Steelers colors right there.
Yeah.
Look at that, Sir Smoke a Lot. Get it, hit it, get you high. Mr. Nice Guy. All right. Final game we're going to talk about, part 1 of the Week 16 preview. We're actually going to do part 2 today, too.
Yep.
So,
give us about a half hour.
You're jumping on Memphis, right? Memphis?
Yeah.
Memphis radio, ladies and gentlemen, Sigmund Blue, ass cracking ball sackings, ma'am in the AM. Right? So here we go. Let's do one more game. We'll take a little bit of a break, come back with part 2. Chicago, Jacksonville. Jacksonville side's more interesting. So let's get through Chicago. David Montgomery. Mwah. Thank you, David Montgomery. Thank you, Allen Robinson, for always putting up such a great effort week in and week out, no matter who the quarterback is. Mitchell Trubisky, Nick Foles, blah, blah, blah. Tyler Bray. Okay, so David Montgomery, Allen Robinson, and littering and...
Yeah, right. David Montgomery, league winner. Let's talk about it in the chat room earlier. David Montgomery, league winner, and this is a great matchup for him to get 35 touches. What do you have last week? 32 carries. I don't know if I trust Mitchell Trubisky as a streamer this week, but I do think against Jacksonville he's going to do enough to make Allen Robinson still a good play. And maybe in that same vein, Chase Claypool McCole Hardman. Darnell Mooney, maybe a little lower confidence of him getting that deep ball, but the speed is there for him to have that one play that breaks open your fantasy championship matchup. What's Doug Marrone doing here, Cease? Really, again, I'm looking at John Gruden. What are you doing, man? Splitting the reps. What is Doug Marrone doing at week 16 trying to play cloak and dagger or, again, have a quarterback competition in December and practice?
Yeah, it's dumb. It's dumb. James Robinson is fantastic, and he won't practice fully this week, but he wants and expects to play in week 16. That's the latest we have. Ian Rappaport says that. So, okay, James Robinson, and
that's it.
Okay.
Yeah. It's the classic. If you have two quarterbacks, you have none, right? Yeah. If you have two quarterbacks, you have no fantasy options. But you have James Robinson. And look, I understand it may be, in hindsight, the right play to bench James Robinson if his ankle's affecting him, or just this no quarterback offense makes it impossible for him to have a good fantasy day. But it's James Robinson. See, don't you get the feeling that if you bench James Robinson and he's going to catch a nice touchdown like he did last week, or run for 100 yards, or just do something, like he'll come to your house in January and say, I heard you benched me for the fantasy championship and lost. And I'm just here to say, don't you ever doubt me again. Because James Robinson's been proving the doubters wrong all the year. I think he didn't make the Pro Bowl either, right? What? So, James Robinson, though, one of these stories of the football season, the fantasy football season, it's just too bad for him that he's on the Jags.
That's right. Mark says fire up Chicago.
Yeah. Khalil Mack.
Yeah. Yep.
Return of the Mac.
Okay. Ooh, that's what I'll use as a bumper.
Return of
the Mac. Dun, dun, dun. There's a sweet spot for like R&B and hip hop in the 90s.
New Jack Swing.
Doesn't get better, man. Doesn't get better. Yeah. Or as Jay-Z says, it only gets better. It only gets better with part 2 of the Week 16 preview coming up next. He's Sigmund. I'm Cecil. We're the Audible. Everyone stay tuned and stay frosty.